$1,412,000. That's not a dream. That's not a lottery ticket. That's just Monday, sitting quietly in an account nobody at your job has ever seen. You're 35. You drive a truck with 130,000 miles on it. You pack your own lunch in a bag. That's older than some of your coworkers' marriages. Nobody claps for you. Nobody knows. This is 1 week of your life, an ordinary one. No inheritance, no stock tip, just 7 days and the quiet math running underneath all of them. Monday, 6:40 in the morning, the jacket on the hook by the door. Canvas faded from green to something closer to gray. A torn seam near the collar. You bought it at 19 for $34. You don't wear it to the office. You leave it on the hook and drive to Holbrook Industrial in the truck instead. 9 a.m., your director, a woman named Colette, slides a piece of paper across the conference table. Senior manager, 28% more pay. On paper, it's obviously good news. She walks you through it anyway. 3 times the meetings, 2 new direct reports, a phone that doesn't go quiet after 6 p.m. because senior managers are the ones who pick up when something breaks at 9 p.m. You ask one question. What does this do to my time? Colette pauses like nobody's asked her that. Instead of asking about the number, she says, honestly, it takes a lot of it, but it's a real opportunity. You tell her, no, thank you. She looks at you, the way you look at someone turning down a kidney that was a perfect match. Here's the part that's hard to explain to anyone who hasn't sat with the math themselves. 28% more pay sounds like an obvious yes, but you already know where every dollar you make is going automatically before you can touch it. And this raise wouldn't change the number that actually matters to you. The day you get your time back completely, it would move that day a little closer, maybe 4 or 5 months closer. But the version of you that takes this job, the one with 2 more direct reports and a phone that rings at 9 p.m., that version comes home with less left over, less for Marisol, less for actually being present at dinner instead of just sitting at it. Money can buy almost anything except time. You think about your dad for a second, sitting in Colette's office, not on purpose, it just surfaces. He worked 22 years at a plant 2 towns over, said yes to everything, right up until the day they didn't need him anymore. 54 years old, $6,100 saved. That's the whole cushion a person gets for saying yes to every ask for 2 decades straight. You decided something a long time ago, watching him take that call in the kitchen. You don't remember the exact words anymore, just the shape of the decision. Nobody's ever doing that to you. And more than that, you were never going to build a life where saying yes to everything was the only option you had. You drive home a little early, not because you're upset, because you can. That's the whole point of the last 16 years, and Monday is just the first day it gets tested. Then Tuesday comes. Lunch break, break room, the coffee machine making its usual complaining noise. Trent's leaning against the counter, 26 years old, the kind of tired that isn't about sleep. Can I ask something weird? He says. You seem like you've got this figured out. I've got about $8,700 in credit card debt, and I genuinely don't know what half of it was for. You don't lecture him. You remember being closer to his age than you'd like to admit. Standing at a bank counter at 23, watching a teller slide a pamphlet across instead of an actual answer. Want the 2 sentences that actually fix things for me, you ask? He nods, coffee halfway to his mouth, not drinking it. Pay yourself first automatically before you can touch the money. And never carry a balance on anything that doesn't grow in value. He half laughs. That's it? That's most of it, you tell him. Everything else is just details. Here is a detail Trent actually needs, not just the advice, the number underneath it. Most credit cards charge somewhere around 22 to 27% interest. If he only pays the minimum on $8,700, that debt can take over a decade to disappear completely. And by the time it's gone, he'll have handed the bank almost as much in interest as the entire original balance. There's another number most people never hear explained clearly, something called credit utilization. It's how much of your available credit you're actually using at any given moment. A high balance against your limit doesn't just cost interest. It drags your credit score down quietly, and a lower score follows you for years, making every future loan slightly more expensive than it needs to be. Debt doesn't care how hard you work to earn the money it's about to eat. Trent asks if you ever had debt like that. You tell him the truth a little. At 23, nothing dramatic, mostly just the ordinary kind everyone starts with. What changed was one automatic transfer, $45 a month, set up on a Sunday night before you could talk yourself out of it. You don't tell Trent what your accounts actually look like now. You never tell anyone that. But that afternoon, you send him a link to the same low-fee index fund you use and a note that just says, start with whatever you can, even if it's $10 a week. $10 feels embarrassing to invest. It's supposed to. That feeling wears off faster than people expect. Trent doesn't say much back, just a thumbs up, and later a screenshot. He moved $30 into something for the first time in his life. Not much, not nothing either. Then Wednesday comes. You get home a little after 6, and Grant's already in his driveway, waxing something that still has the dealer sticker in the back window. Brand new truck, lifted, chrome. Behind it, hooked to a trailer, sits a boat, also new. Grant bought it Monday, he tells you, grinning like he's been waiting all week for someone to ask. Grant makes solid money, better than you actually, by the raw numbers. Decent title 2 towns over, decent bonus every spring. By every visible measure, Grant's winning. New truck, new boat, an addition going up on the back of his house this summer. You're standing there in work boots next to a truck with 130,000 miles on it, and you feel nothing really. Not envy, not superiority, just the same quiet arithmetic that's been running in the background since before you can remember starting it. Here's what the arithmetic says. Grant's truck payment, ensign, is somewhere around $1,100 a month, financed over 72 months. The boat adds a few hundred more on top of that. Run $1,100 a month into an index fund instead, growing at the market's long-term average for 25 years, and it turns into something close to $1 million. That truck sitting in Grant's driveway isn't just a truck. It's a version of his future that quietly stopped existing the moment he signed the loan. You're not judging him for it. That part matters, and it's easy to get wrong. Grant's boat is going to make real memories. His kids will remember summers on that lake for the rest of their lives. And there's no spreadsheet built that can measure what that's actually worth to a family. Money was never only a tool for building net worth. Sometimes it's a tool for building somebody's childhood. But there's a difference between spending because something genuinely matters to you, and spending because everyone around you is spending, and stopping feels like falling behind. That second kind has a name, lifestyle inflation, and it's sneaky because it almost never feels like a decision in the moment. It just feels like keeping up every raise you've gotten in the last dozen years. You split in half without really having to think about it anymore. Half goes toward living a little better. Half goes to the machine, the automatic transfers, the retirement accounts, the thing that never announces itself out loud. You didn't build this habit because you're disciplined in some heroic way. You built it back when the money was little enough that it never got the chance to tempt you out of it. Grant isn't losing. Grant is just running a different machine tuned for different things. Marisol asks that night if you ever want a new truck too. Not pushing, just asking the way she asks about most things. You think about it for exactly as long as it takes to answer and say no. Not because you can't afford it, because you learned a long time ago to sit with one question before buying anything that isn't already automatic. Will you still want it in 30 days? Or do you just want it right now, standing in a driveway, watching someone else's headlights? You already know the answer. You've known it since you were 19. Watching your dad learn the hard way what happens to people who never got around to asking that question at all. Thursday comes. Your phone rings around 7 in the evening. Denise, your sister's voice has a specific tightness to it. Her transmission's gone. The shop quoted her $1,300 and payday's 9 days away. You don't lecture her. You remember being 23, standing in line at a bank, Asking for a card you couldn't actually afford to want. "I'll send it tonight," you tell her. She starts to say, "She'll pay you back," and you cut her off gently. Cars break. That's not a character flaw. That's just a Thursday. You transfer the money from a small cash cushion you built years ago, back when you bought the house. A cushion that exists for exactly this kind of moment. Not for spending on yourself, just for absorbing whatever life throws at the people you love before it turns into something bigger than it needs to be. Here's the math nobody puts in a headline. $1,300 is a small fraction of what's sitting in your accounts. For Denise, it was the difference between a fixed car and a payday loan running close to 400% interest. The kind that chases someone for a year and turns one bad week into 18 bad months. You didn't just send money tonight. You deleted a crisis before it had the chance to multiply. The biggest return you'll ever earn has no ticker symbol. Denise insists on paying you back anyway, $30 at a time over the next few months, because she needs to. You let her. Some debts aren't really about the money. They're about somebody's dignity. And you learned a while ago not to take that away from people, even when you easily could. Then Friday comes. The rumor's been moving through Holbrook since Wednesday. The way rumors move through a plant, fast, sideways. Layoffs, maybe 100 positions. Nobody in charge has said a word, which somehow makes it worse. At the vending machine, you run into a coworker from receiving named Priya. Her tray is half full, and her face looks like she hasn't slept right in days. She tells you she pulled her 401k contributions down to nothing this week, needs the extra $140 a month just in case, needs to feel like she's doing something. You understand that instinct completely. You just don't share it. Here's the difference, and it isn't about being smarter than Priya, it's about 18 months. Years ago, back when you bought the house, you built something most people never quite get around to building. A cash cushion. $61,000 sitting in a high-yield savings account, earning almost nothing, doing almost nothing on purpose. Cash was never meant to outperform the market. It exists so you never have to sell your investments during panic. The moment everyone else is selling, the moment prices are lowest, the moment fear is loudest in the room. 18 months of expenses sitting quietly doing one job. If the layoffs come and somehow reach your line, you don't touch your index funds. You don't touch the Roth. You live off the cushion for as long as it takes. And your real money keeps compounding untouched the whole time, like it never even noticed anything happened. You tell Priya something close to this, not as a lecture, just as a fact. The way you'd give someone directions to the highway. She nods, but you can tell the fear is still louder than the math for her right now. And you don't blame her for that. Fear usually is louder. That's exactly why the cushion has to get built before the fear ever shows up. Almost nobody thinks clearly enough to build it in the middle of the storm itself. By Friday afternoon, the rumor starts to shrink the way rumors do, without an apology, without anyone admitting they were ever scared. The cuts, when they finally get announced Monday, land at a plant 3 towns over instead. 60 positions there, none at Holbrook. Priya puts her contribution back the following week. You don't say anything about it. You don't need to. Cash isn't a position. Cash is permission to never sell in fear. Then Saturday comes. Marisol's at the kitchen table with a needle and a small square of denim, working on the jacket. 3rd patch, now. This one on the elbow, next to the one from 2 years ago, next to the one from before that. She didn't ask if you wanted a new jacket. She just fixed the one you had, the way she's fixed it every time it's torn, since you were 23. You watch her for a minute before heading out to the grocery store. 16 years, 1 jacket, 3 patches. Cheaper than a new one, obviously, but that's not really why she does it. At the store, you run into a coworker in the cereal aisle. Not Priya this time, a guy from the floor named Denny, cart full of the kind of groceries that cost more, because the box says premium on it somewhere. Denny's telling you about a new streaming bundle he signed up for. 4 services rolled into one, $47 a month, most of which he says he hasn't opened in 6 months. You don't say anything about it. It's not your business. And $47 a month. isn't going to change Denny's life either way. But it gets you thinking about a number that actually might change someone's life quietly over a long enough stretch of time. Something almost nobody explains clearly, and it isn't about streaming bundles at all. It's about the fee sitting inside every investment fund, called an expense ratio. It's the cut a fund company takes just for managing your money, whether your account goes up or down that year. One of the funds you owned years ago charged 1% annually. Sounds tiny, feels tiny. The way $47 a month feels tiny. Run that same 1% against a portfolio that grows to $500,000 over a couple of decades. And that quiet little fee ends up eating over $300,000 of what would have been yours. Nobody stole it. You just paid a toll every single year. And tolls compound too, just in the wrong direction, working against you instead of for you. You switched funds years ago from that 1% fund down to something charging 0.03%. You barely remember making the decision. You just remember it was one of maybe 5 financial decisions in your whole life that actually moved the needle by hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it took about 15 minutes on a Tuesday night to do it. A 1% fee feels like nothing. A torn pocket feels like nothing too, until you check 10 years later. You get home, and Marisol's finished with the jacket, holding it up to check her stitching against the light. She hands it to you without saying much. You put it on for a second, right there in the kitchen, just to feel the weight of it settle the way it always does. Denny's $47 a month will still be there next year doing nothing. Your 15 minutes from years ago are still compounding tonight while you stand in your kitchen, not thinking about it at all. Then Sunday comes. 30 minutes, first Sunday of the month. Same as always. Coffee, 2 mugs, the laptop open on the kitchen table between you and Marisol. No ambush, no secrets, just numbers, out loud, the way you've done it since the year you got married. $1,412,000, give or take whatever the market decided to do this week. Neither of you reacts to the number anymore. It stopped being the point a while ago. Marisol updates the spreadsheet while you talk through the week. Colette's offer, the one you turned down. Trent's $30 moved into his first fund. Denise's transmission handled. Grant's new boat sitting in the driveway, 2 doors down. Priya's Forohonek back on again. The jacket patched for the 3rd time. None of it sounds like a financial week. If you say it out loud to a stranger, it sounds like just a week. That's the part almost nobody explains. The actual mechanics of building something like this rarely look like finance at all. They look like ordinary Tuesdays and Thursdays, one decision at a time, most of them too small to mention to anyone. You close the laptop. Outside, the evening's cooling off. And you and Marcel walk the same 2-mile loop you've walked most Sundays for years, past the same houses, the same dog that barks at the same fence. A podcast host asked you something once years back when you agreed to a short interview nobody ever really listened to. What's your number? When is it finally enough? You'd passed that number a while ago, somewhere around $800,000 if you had to guess exactly when. Nothing happened when you crossed it. No confetti, no feeling. The number just became a bigger number. And you were still you, walking the same loop, wearing the same jacket, worried about the same small things. That's the lesson that only shows up after the money does. The finish line was never real. What the money actually delivered came earlier, gradually, in pieces too small to notice individually. The day you stopped fearing the mail. The day a layoff rumor bored you more than it scared you. The day you said no to a raise because you already knew what it would cost. Denise's transmission, handled. A layoff rumor ignored on purpose. A market drop, left alone. A jacket patched instead of replaced 4 times over by someone who loves you enough to keep fixing something instead of throwing it away. Wealth is the density of no problem in your life. That night you read in bed for a few minutes before turning off the lamp. Tomorrow, there's one meeting, a dentist appointment for Marisol, and Denise's birthday coming up next weekend. Ordinary things. A whole life built out of ordinary things, stacked one on top of another for 16 years. until they added up to something that looks from the outside like it must have taken a miracle. It didn't. It just took every single Monday agreeing to look exactly like this one. Somewhere on 5th Street, a different Monday is starting. A 19-year-old walks into a thrift store near the corner, the bell over the door announcing him to nobody in particular. He's got wet boots from the walkover. Bus fare was $2 today, and gas for the week already ate that. He finds a canvas jacket on the rack near the register. Faded green. One pocket already coming loose at the seam. $34. He checks his phone before buying it. A missed call from his dad, a voicemail he hasn't listened to yet. Hell, listen to it tonight. Standing in a kitchen that isn't so different from the one two towns over 16 years ago, where another 19-year-old once stood and made a decision without ever saying it out loud. He buys the jacket, puts it on right there in the store because it's cold outside and it fits well enough. He has no idea, yet that he'll still be wearing it years from now. Nobody ever knows that about the things they buy at 19. He walks out past a bank branch with fluorescent lights and a line that never moves. And he doesn't go in, not today. Maybe next week, once he's saved up enough to ask about an account that does more than just sit there. The clock on the corner reads 5:40. It always will. He doesn't know about the corridor yet. The long one with no windows. The one that only rewards people who keep walking it long after it stops feeling like it's working. He just knows it's cold and the jacket's $34 and he needs to get to work. He will find out, not all at once, just one ordinary Monday at a time for the rest of his life. If this week made you think differently about what actually builds wealth, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below sharing your thoughts. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.